I know some people like this movie. Some people are stupid. I know people are really into this, like really, really into this. So.
Beautiful. Where's my wife? Where your wife? Where your wife at? We want to get her.
Asking for the gag order and explaining how he's talking too much. He's threatening to post stuff on public sites. So what I think is, this looks good for Baldoni, right? He's like, we want to make it all public. And sometimes lawyers can do this knowing that they can't actually do what they say they're going to.
It turns out that Blake Lively was caught on tape talking about how she manipulates people around her in order to take control of the movies upon which she works. As I've said before, my first advice as a lawyer to all possible clients, don't do criming on tape.
We always tease each other. He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, think of the ladies I could. This is a horrible thing to say. I've got a long list. And I was like, oh really? Because I just have one on my list. Oh. I don't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, and he's like, wait, who? And I was like, think of someone. Bob Newhart. I don't know.
Okay, Ryan, we're starting to see you for who you are. What happened? They said Ryan Reynolds comes to set. This is the backstory. Reviews the dailies, reviews the script, and then he goes into his trailer. Don't gag order or sue me, Ryan Reynolds. I don't want to be involved in melodrama. I'm just telling my audience what I was told. He goes into Blake Lively's trailer and they have an argument. All of the production assistants overheard the argument, but we can assume it had something to do with what he saw in these dailies, what he read in the script. Who even knows? From that day forward, he started involving himself, that he basically became a chaperone for her on set. He was there every day, involved in the projects, wanting to rewrite lines, and suddenly Ryan Reynolds was trying to wrangle this project from Justin Baldoni.
But it does make it look a little suspicious that you were using exactly these tactics against Justin Baldoni, apparently. Oh my God. And then she did exactly that to Justin Baldoni, apparently.
I mean, I internalized that as opportunity. We had such a responsibility to this audience to deliver something and to have the opportunity to deliver something for a passionate group of people.
Yes.
As someone who's so deeply passionate myself, I was so excited about that. I would so much rather have that than people who are indifferent.
Blasé.
The times where people ignore the red flags and say, let's just keep pushing, those are the times where you fail. The majority of things that we're buying are created by men. You always learn more from your failures than you do your successes. I love creating, and I think that as women, you're not often given authorship.
That she became uncomfortable with Justin Baldoni yesterday while she was filming. She states that Mr. Baldoni put his bare hands on her backside and said that he was trying to help her with her posture. Complainant immediately voiced her displeasure with being touched on an intimate part of her body, and Mr. Baldoni responded with, "It's fine. I'm totally hot for my wife," in a dismissive tone.
And then she went and complained about it by attacking him and trying to wreck him, because she apparently was at one point in a room with her, Ryan Reynolds, and Taylor Swift trying to bully Justin Baldoni.
For most of the world, the Oscars are an annual spectacle of lavish attire, acceptance speeches brimming with emotion, and an air of grandeur that only Hollywood can muster. This year, though, an entirely different narrative seized the spotlight. It began not with a slip of an envelope or a surprise victory, but with a reported moment where host Conan O'Brien took the stage and delivered harsh commentary on Blake Lively's ongoing lawsuit drama. Right in front of millions of viewers. The story claims Lively could barely handle what happened next, leading to a meltdown that overshadowed the usual pomp and circumstance. If the rumors hold even a seed of truth, O'Brien's well-timed barbs might have cracked open a side of Lively's public image that few believed could be shaken. Word has it that O'Brien's comedic routine was peppered with subtle references to the strife between Lively and Justin Baldoni. Instead of lighthearted jests, the humor skewed more like barbed comments that, once decoded, suggested Lively might not be the innocent party she claims. The entire auditorium was left momentarily stunned. Nervous giggles here, awkward silences there. Observers claim Lively's face displayed a flicker of panic as the camera panned across glamorous faces in the audience. Conan's comedic timing, typically a crowd pleaser, instead stirred an undercurrent of tension that overshadowed the glitz. But how did a comedic monologue at the Oscars morph into such a fiasco? Reports say that O'Brien, known for weaving in relevant pop culture references, decided to highlight the swirling rumors about Lively's lawsuit as a cautionary tale of Hollywood illusions. If he aimed to provoke a reaction, it worked. Social media erupted in real time with viewers reacting to the remarks, uncertain whether to laugh or cringe. Once that moment aired, there was no scrubbing it from the collective memory. The meltdown that followed, backstage or off camera, is now the stuff of immediate legend, overshadowing the rest of the Oscars to a startling degree. Witnesses backstage and in the front row claim Lively's meltdown was triggered by a specific portion of Conan's opening act. According to these insiders, O'Brien took a brief, pointed detour in his routine, joking that some legal entanglements are so messy you could base a soap opera on them. Call it All My Allegations, starring none other than Ms. Perfect herself. Though he didn't name Lively outright at first, the sly glances and layered hints made it abundantly clear who he was referencing. He then allegedly followed up with a direct quip about Baldoni's revelations, phrasing it in a manner that left little doubt Lively's lawsuit was the target of his comedic fire. It's worth noting that comedic hosts often gather material from headline-making controversies, but Hollywood protocol usually discourages overly specific jabs about ongoing lawsuits. If O'Brien's routine truly singled out Lively with such accuracy, it points to a desire to churn the rumor mill in front of the biggest possible audience. Some observers think O'Brien overstepped, crossing a line between comedic ribbing and public humiliation. Others praise him for delivering an unfiltered moment of truth, especially if Lively's lawsuit deserves more attention. Either way, the immediate impact was a hush across significant sections of the crowd. The meltdown itself reportedly happened soon after the jokes landed. Lively, usually adept at flashing a gracious smile or deflecting attention when under scrutiny, appears to have been caught off guard. People claim to have seen her retreat from her seat, possibly to a backstage area or side corridor. Though the official broadcast never captured the meltdown head-on, by the time the cameras returned to the audience, Lively's seat was empty. Online watchers began speculating in real time about her whereabouts, some assuming she had stepped out for a routine break, until the rumors started swirling about tears and raised voices out of public view. If Conan O'Brien intended to push Lively to a breaking point, he succeeded beyond imagination. The comedic jabs might not have forced a meltdown on a typical day, but given Lively's rumored fragile position from weeks of controversy, it's not shocking that such a well-timed comedic assault might break her composure. One question remains. Did Conan act on his own comedic instincts, or did he glean certain rumors from inside sources eager to watch Lively squirm? People rarely see the writing process behind an Oscars host's jokes, but the specificity here suggests a deeper knowledge of the tension between Lively and Baldoni. Under normal circumstances, a comedic host's barbs are part of the Oscars pageantry. The crowd giggles, the camera pans to a blushing star, the show rolls on. This time, something more ominous lingered after O'Brien pivoted away from the Lively jokes. Audience members reportedly exchanged knowing glances, as if collectively aware they just witnessed something borderline scandalous. The energy in the theater, once lively and celebratory, allegedly felt uneasy. Some presenters fumbled lines, possibly distracted by the tension. Social media watchers posted real-time comments along the lines of, "Did Conan just call out Lively?" and "Someone check on Blake." Then came the meltdown claims. A few insiders say Lively initially tried to maintain her composure, clenching her jaw and forcing a tight smile. But as the segment concluded, she rose from her seat and quietly slipped into the wings. Stagehands and backstage staff have described her demeanor as deeply rattled, with tears glimmering in her eyes. One version of events claims she was on her phone, apparently checking some new development about the lawsuit, or possibly scanning her messages to see the immediate aftermath of O'Brien's jokes on Twitter. The meltdown, if that's the accurate term, is said to have unfolded behind a curtained area near the stage, where Lively could no longer hide her distress. People milling around claim they heard raised voices, though whose exactly remains unclear. Some say a personal assistant tried to calm her down, while others mention a minor confrontation with an unnamed colleague who might have insisted the jokes would blow over. The meltdown overshadowed the tail end of O'Brien's monologue, with a swirl of confusion as staff tried to keep the show running smoothly while simultaneously managing a high-profile star in visible distress. To fully understand how Conan O'Brien's words could cut so deep, let's revisit the Baldoni-Lively legal dispute. This fiasco traces back months, some say longer, involving a mixture of behind-the-scenes industry deals, personal grudges, and whispered claims of manipulative behavior. The common consensus is that Justin Baldoni has either threatened or actually begun releasing details that paint Lively in a questionable light. Some say it's about undisclosed communications, others mention potential contract infractions that Lively tried to keep under wraps. The timeline is murky, but the tension is impossible to deny. The fact that O'Brien singled out Lively's lawsuit troubles suggests these are no small-time rumors. The gossip must be loud enough that the Oscars host felt safe referencing them in front of an audience of millions. That's telling. Hollywood suits rarely appreciate a star being openly ridiculed on such a grand stage without good reason, or at least compelling public interest. The meltdown indicates that Lively was ill-prepared for her struggles to become comedic fodder. Her usual approach to controversies, evasion, lighthearted jokes, or silence, crumbled in the face of public exposure at the year's biggest show. Speculation abounds. Some watchers think Lively expected O'Brien to avoid referencing her lawsuit. Altogether, perhaps believing the Oscars producers wouldn't allow something so negative to overshadow a celebratory event. If so, that assumption was incorrect. O'Brien, known for witty, boundary-testing monologues, evidently felt no qualms about highlighting the fiasco. The meltdown was thus a direct reaction to the unpredictability of a comedic host who had no interest in tiptoeing around hush-hush topics. A star's best defense typically is to maintain grace and humor, but rumor has it that Lively's grace gave way to panic, confirming that the lawsuit might have more explosive secrets than she's admitted. Baldoni, for his part, remains a central figure in all of this. While he wasn't at the Oscars in a prominent capacity, as far as anyone could see, his presence hung like an invisible cloud over Lively. If his allegations are so damning that the Oscars host felt comfortable weaving them into a comedic set that says something about how widely believed, or at least widely discussed, they have become. Observers wonder if Lively's meltdown will embolden Baldoni to push even harder, now that the meltdown reveals she's vulnerable under the glare of public scrutiny. Lawsuits like these can devolve into a war of narratives, and O'Brien might have inadvertently handed Baldoni a major advantage. Blake Lively's career is built on grace and approachability, with a carefully maintained public image that strays from heated controversies. So, if the meltdown is real, it stands to threaten the foundation of that brand. Hollywood watchers emphasize that a meltdown in itself is not career-ending. Stars have rebounded from far worse public mishaps. Yet the meltdown becomes particularly problematic if it's tied to genuine wrongdoing or manipulations on Lively's part. If, for instance, Conan O'Brien's jokes alluded to actual evidence that Lively's lawsuit claims are shaky, then the meltdown looks more like a reaction to being exposed than a moment of emotional vulnerability. Brands, sponsors, and potential collaborators often watch for signs of unpredictability in a star. A meltdown triggered by comedic references to an unresolved lawsuit might raise red flags for those who prefer low-drama partnerships. Some social media pundits hypothesize that Lively's meltdown could harm her prospects for leading roles in upcoming films, as producers wonder if the lawsuit scandal will overshadow promotional tours or lead to more tension on set. It's a brutal system. The moment you appear unstable in the face of adversity, other opportunities might recede. Another angle is the potential effect on the lawsuit itself. In high-profile legal disputes, every slip in public can shape negotiations or color a judge's perception. While it's not typical for a meltdown at the Oscars to be cited in court documents, the meltdown's broader significance might show that Lively's side is struggling to maintain narrative control. If Baldoni's allegations continue to gain traction, perhaps more meltdown-like moments lie ahead. The meltdown thus becomes a symbol of a star losing her grip, prompting some to suspect her meltdown is an unwitting confession that she can't keep ignoring or spinning the allegations. Of course, none of this is fully set in stone. Lively might bounce back swiftly. Stars have short memory cycles in the public consciousness if they manage the crisis well. A heartfelt statement or a strong counter to Baldoni's claims might mitigate the meltdown's long-term damage. The big question is whether Lively has the resources or the moral high ground to craft a convincing comeback. If the meltdown is just one crack in her armor, and deeper revelations are yet to come, the climb back to unwavering star status might be steeper than anticipated. One of the biggest mysteries swirling around this fiasco is whether Conan O'Brien intentionally crafted jokes to make Lively squirm. Publicly, the Oscars' comedic routine is pinned on a team of writers who aim to keep the show lively and relevant. Taking aim at fresh controversies is fair game in comedic monologues, but the level of specificity that triggered Lively's meltdown suggests someone either fed O'Brien the lines or he was thoroughly briefed on the Baldoni-Lively dispute. Some watchers guess that someone from Baldoni's circle might have offered comedic fuel to O'Brien's team, ensuring the jokes would connect with rumors swirling around Lively. If so, that would be a calculated move, designed to humiliate Lively at her peak moment of exposure. On the other hand, it could be a typical comedic approach. O'Brien might have spotted a trending legal saga and decided it was comedic gold. Past Oscar hosts, from Billy Crystal to Ricky Gervais, though Gervais is known for his Golden Globe stints, frequently up the ante with edgy jabs. If O'Brien had no malicious intent and simply recognized that the lively Baldoni lawsuit was widely discussed, then the meltdown was an unplanned side effect. That doesn't lessen the meltdown's impact, though. People rarely recall the nuance of comedic intent when the outcome is so dramatic. Industry chatter hints that O'Brien himself was taken aback by Lively's reaction. Some claim he apologized privately, or that he was upset the comedic segment overshadowed the rest of his monologue. Typically known for a more whimsical style, O'Brien's occasionally tested boundaries in the past, but rarely has he incited such chaos. The meltdown overshadowing the awarding of major categories is a sign that the jokes might have gone further than expected. Yet we can only glean speculation from a handful of Backstage sources and scraps of hearsay. O'Brien's formal statement, if one exists, remains undisclosed at present. The meltdown thus stands as a question mark about comedic boundaries and personal sensitivities, raising debates about who's truly to blame. In the weeks after the Oscars, rumors about the meltdown's exact cause and intensity will likely swirl. We might hear more from eyewitness accounts or glean a sense of Lively's stance if she addresses the meltdown in an interview. Alternatively, the meltdown might remain shrouded in half-truths, continuing to feed the rumor mill as the lawsuit roars on. Whatever path emerges, one thing's certain: the meltdown is a pivotal moment that reveals how uneasy Lively's position might be and how potent comedic commentary can become when it collides with real-life controversies. So, as the dust settles, on an Oscars overshadowed by comedic jabs and a behind-the-scenes meltdown, the question remains: is Lively on the brink of losing the lawsuit? Has Conan O'Brien inadvertently handed Baldoni the upper hand by exposing cracks in Lively's composure on live TV? Or will Lively rally and prove that the meltdown was a minor slip in an otherwise orchestrated public battle for justice? The only sure bet is that fans will keep their eyes peeled for the next wave of revelations, either from the courts or from the rumor mill. Whichever arrives first, the meltdown ensures that the Lively Baldoni showdown is far from over, and everyone from Oscars watchers to gossip aficionados will be paying attention, waiting to see whether the meltdown was a fleeting spectacle or the sign of something much deeper unraveling behind the scenes.